In the beginning there was nothing, no light, no sky, no earth beneath or stars above. Only an immeasurable, infinite expanse of stillness and darkness existed. This boundless emptiness was chaos, the primordial void, raw and formless, the unshaped foundation of all creation. Chaos was not evil, nor was it good, it simply was, a swirling potential, silent, yet brimming with possibility. Within chaos, there was no order, no time, no separation between what could be and what was. It was the breath before the first breath, the moment before moments began. Then, from this quiet vastness, something stirred. The first ripple of becoming. From the shapeless womb of chaos, ancient and powerful forms began to emerge. Not born of flesh, but of force and idea. These were the first primordial deities. Foremost among them was Gaia, the Earth Mother. Her emergence was not explosive, but inevitable, like breath-filling lungs for the first time. She was solid and steady, nurturing and vast. She was land and mountain and fertility, even before there was form to support her being. Gaia arose to bring balance to the void, a foundation where life could one day root itself. Thus, the silence was broken. Existence had begun. The silence of chaos trembled gently as Gaia opened her awareness. She was not born, she became. Her body was the earth itself, valleys shaped by her breath, mountains rising from the curve of her spine, oceans forming in the hollows of her presence. She felt herself stretch across the dark void, rooting into the emptiness, giving it substance. Gaia was consciousness within matter, the first to feel. Though alone, she did not despair. She was whole, complete in her solitude, yet she longed for balance. From within her own form, she felt movement. Her pulse stirred the winds, her exhale whispered into chaos, and her dreams began to shape reality. She summoned the first light, Uranus, the sky, not as a separate being, but as a reflection of her yearning. With Gaia as earth and Uranus as sky, the first duality formed. He rose above her, cloaking her curves with a dome of glittering starlight. He was vast, bright, and free, and he gazed upon her with awe. Gaia embraced this union, for she no longer wanted to be alone. She called to Uranus, and he answered. The earth and sky, once isolated, now leaned toward one another. From this sacred joining, creation began to quicken. The first seeds of life stirred in Gaia's depths, and the cosmos prepared for birth. Gaia and Uranus, earth and sky, stood as the first divine pair, opposite yet eternally connected. Their union brought movement to the stillness of the cosmos. As Uranus stretched over Gaia, stars shimmered across his body like jeweled sparks, and Gaia's surface trembled with fertile energy. Their embrace was not of flesh, but of force. From their sacred union came the first generation of divine beings, the Titans, powerful children who represented the raw forces of nature. They were not born in pain, but in cosmic harmony. Oceanus of the seas, Hyperion of light, Rhea, Thea, and others who would one day shape the world. Yet Uranus, though enamored with Gaia, feared the power of their offspring. He saw in them great potential and great threat. So, with a voice like thunder, he forced them back into Gaia's womb, deep into the earth's caverns, hidden from the heavens. Gaia groaned beneath the weight of her children. Though nurturing, she felt betrayal stir in her heart. Uranus's actions were not of love, but of control, a fear of being surpassed. For the first time since chaos, the seeds of conflict took root in the cosmos. And Gaia, still wise, still strong, began to plot. Burdened by the pain of confinement and betrayal, Gaia wept not with tears, but with earthquakes. Her once loving union with Uranus had soured. She could no longer bear the cries of her imprisoned children. Their voices echoed through her mountains and seas. And so she called them forth in secret, "Who among you will rise?" she asked. "Who will wield justice and restore balance?" The Titans trembled. Their father, Uranus, was vast and all-seeing. Most shrank away, all except Cronus, the youngest and most cunning. His eyes gleamed with ambition. Where his siblings feared, he calculated. Gaia, proud and resolute, forged a weapon from her very bones, a great adamantine sickle, sharp enough to wound even a god. She placed it in Cronus's hands. Her voice was steady, "Strike when he descends. Free yourselves." When night fell, Uranus descended to embrace Gaia, oblivious to the trap below. Cronus emerged from the depths, silent and swift. With a single, mighty stroke, he castrated his father, casting Uranus's blood across the sky and sea. From that blood, life sprouted anew. The Furies, the giants, and from sea foam, something divine stirred. The age of Uranus had ended. The age of the Titans had begun as Uranus's severed essence fell into the sea. The waters churned with divine power. Foam bubbled, shimmered, and pulsed. From this radiant mix of sky and sea, a breathtaking form began to rise. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. She did not scream nor cry, but sang. Her voice as soft as waves brushing shorelines. Her body was shaped of light and water, flawless and enchanting. The sea itself welcomed her, parting as she walked upon its surface. Wherever she stepped, flowers bloomed upon the ocean's edge. Unlike the Titans, Aphrodite was not born from union, but from violence transformed into beauty. She represented a force older than reason, desire, attraction, the unspoken dance between creation and destruction. As she emerged, the world gasped. Even Gaia watched in awe. This was a power unlike any before. Not raw strength or fury, but the ability to stir hearts and bend wills. Love had entered the cosmos. Aphrodite sailed upon a great seashell, carried by Zephyrus, the west wind. She made landfall on the island of Cythera, where her footsteps would become sacred. Though not a Titan, her influence would ripple across time, weaving love into the destiny of gods and mortals alike. With Uranus cast down, the Titans rose in power, led by Cronus, the one who dared to strike. Crowned by his siblings, Cronus became ruler of the cosmos. Under his dominion the heavens were calm, and Gaia exhaled in relief. The world grew under the Titan's touch. Rivers flowed, mountains rose, and the sun began to cross the sky. Cronus took his sister Rhea as his queen, and together they reigned from Mount Othrys. Their rule was golden, peaceful, rich with harvests and celestial harmony. But beneath the surface, shadows lingered. A prophecy from Gaia haunted Cronus. As you did to your father, so shall your son do to you. Fear crept into the Titan king's heart. Determined to escape his fate, Cronus made a terrible choice. Each time Rhea bore a child, he swallowed it whole. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, all consumed by Cronus before they could draw breath in the world. Rhea, devastated, could only watch as her children disappeared into their father's belly, one by one. The age of Titans, once golden, was now stained by fear and betrayal. The prophecy had taken root, and destiny, once stirred, would not be silenced. Rhea, once radiant, now bore sorrow in every step. She had given birth to 5 divine children, only to lose them to Cronus's paranoia. When she became pregnant again, she could no longer bear the cycle of destruction. This child, she vowed, would be spared. In secret, she journeyed to the island of Crete, where she gave birth to Zeus, the last child of Cronus, and Rhea. The newborn's cry echoed through the cave, fierce and divine. Rhea wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and returned to Cronus. Deceived, he swallowed the stone never suspecting the truth. Zeus, hidden in the shadows of Mount Ida, was raised by divine caretakers. Amalthea, the nurturing goat who fed him, and the Carites, warrior spirits who danced and clashed their shields to drown out his cries. The child grew strong, quick-witted, and daring, a storm brewing in mortal form. Rhea visited often in secret, watching him grow, whispering stories of his siblings trapped in Cronus's belly. Zeus listened. He would not only survive, he would restore. The world, still under Titan rule, did not yet know it. But in the shadows of Crete, a storm god was rising. Years passed, and Zeus reached manhood, strong of body, sharp of mind. Gaia and Rhea watched from afar, knowing the time had come. The prophecy whispered once more, and Zeus was ready to fulfill it. Disguised as a cupbearer, Zeus entered Cronus's court. With a potion crafted by Metis, the goddess of wisdom, he tricked Cronus into drinking a bitter draught. The Titan king stumbled, roared in agony, and vomited forth the children he had swallowed. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, fully formed and divine. The sky trembled as siblings reunited for the first time. Together, they rose against Cronus. But the Titans would not fall easily. The Titanomachy, the great war of gods and Titans, had begun. For 10 years, the battle raged. On one side stood the Olympians, led by Zeus and his freed siblings. On the other, the mighty Titans, led by Cronus and Atlas. The world was torn, mountains shattered, oceans boiled, stars fell from the sky. Gaia, weary of war, urged balance. She whispered to Zeus, guiding him to the secret weapon of the war. The Cyclopes and Hecatonchires, monstrous allies once imprisoned by the Titans themselves. If freed, they could tip the war far below the world, deeper than any cavern, darker than Khaos itself, lay Tartarus, the eternal prison of the damned. Here, the Titans had cast the Cyclopes and Hecatonchires, monstrous siblings with terrible power. The Cyclopes were one-eyed smiths of thunder and fire. The Hecatonchires were giants with 100 arms and 50 heads, uncontrollable and terrifying. Feared even by the Titans, they were shackled in chains of starlight and sealed beneath the earth. Guided by Gaia, Zeus descended into Tartarus. With courage and compassion, he shattered their bonds. One by one, the ancient prisoners emerged from the darkness, their strength unbroken by time. In gratitude, they pledged loyalty to Zeus. The Cyclopes forged him the ultimate weapon, the lightning bolt, a spear of skyfire. For Hades, they made the helmet of invisibility, and for Poseidon, the mighty trident. The balance of power had shifted. The Olympians, armed and emboldened, returned to the battlefield. The tide of war would soon turn. Tartarus remained, a place of punishment. But now it awaited new prisoners. With their new allies and divine weapons, the Olympians surged with renewed fury. The war climaxed atop Mount Olympus, where gods clashed with Titans in a storm of power and will. Zeus hurled lightning with terrifying precision, each bolt splitting sky and stone. Poseidon shattered mountains with tidal waves. Hades moved unseen, striking from the shadows. Even Hera and Demeter fought with divine wrath. Cronus, though mighty, faltered. Atlas, his strongest general, was cast down by Zeus after a thunderous duel. One by one, the Titans fell. Earth and sky shuddered, but this time, Gaia did not intervene. The balance had to be restored. At last, Zeus faced Cronus in single combat. Thunder roared as father and son clashed. With one final, blinding bolt, Zeus struck Cronus down. The king of the Titans collapsed, defeated. Rather than destroy them, Zeus honored their ancient power. He imprisoned Cronus and his followers in Tartarus, guarded by the Hecatonchiires. Once victims, now wardens, peace returned. The war had ended, the Titans had fallen. A new order began, one ruled not by fear, but by destiny. The age of the Olympians had begun, with the Titans defeated, and the cosmos trembling from the echoes of war. Zeus gathered his siblings atop a mighty mountain. There, above the clouds and nearer to the stars, they claimed their new home, Mount Olympus. Not just a fortress, but a throne of divine law. Olympus stood as a beacon of order after the chaos of battle. Zeus, as king, divided the realms with wisdom. Poseidon was given dominion over the seas, to stir the tides and rule the oceans. Hades was granted the underworld, where the souls of the dead would pass. Zeus claimed the sky and storms, his lightning bolts keeping cosmic balance. Together with Hera, his sister and queen, and other gods like Demeter and Hestia, the Olympians built the first pantheon. No longer were the gods formless or hidden. They now had thrones, roles, and temples rising from mortal lands. The world flourished. Seasons returned, rivers ran pure, and life began to awaken. Yet even among gods, pride and ambition stirred. The victory was not the end, but the beginning of divine politics, alliances, and rivalries. But for now, Olympus was radiant, its halls echoing with laughter, feasts, and the thunderous promise of a new age. From the ashes of war, Demeter, goddess of grain and harvest, stepped forward. As Gaia had shaped the land, Demeter sowed it with purpose. She moved across the earth, her feet turning barren plains into green fields, deserts into meadows. With each wave of her hand, she called forth crops, wheat, barley, olives, and fruit trees. She taught mortals how to till the soil, how to reap and sow. Where Gaia gave birth to the earth, Demeter nourished it. Her bond with nature was sacred. Birds followed her steps, flowers leaned toward her warmth, and rivers bent gently in her presence. Under her guidance, the world began to blossom. Animals stirred, mortals awakened, and the first farms sprang up across the land. She walked often with Gaia, who smiled at the younger goddess's diligence. Demeter, in turn, bowed in reverence to the Earth Mother who made her work possible. Together they ensured that life would not merely survive, it would flourish. This harmony marked the first sacred bond between divine and mortal. The gods were not only creators, they were caretakers, and in Demeter's golden fields, the world began to dream. As Olympus rose in glory, deep within the forges of the earth, another force stirred. Born of Hera alone, in a moment of divine pride, Hephaestus came into being, a god of fire, forge, and craft. But unlike his radiant kin, Hephaestus was born imperfect, his leg twisted, his form limping. Hera, ashamed of his appearance, cast him from Olympus. He fell through the sky for a day and night, landing in the heart of the earth. There, among fire and metal, Hephaestus found purpose. He became one with the flame, taming the molten rivers that flowed beneath Gaia's crust. From anvils of volcanic stone, he forged wonders, unbreakable armor, golden palaces, automata that could think and move. The gods, at first distant, began to recognize his genius. Even Zeus sought his craftsmanship. Hephaestus returned to Olympus, not with anger, but with mastery. His forges burned in the belly of volcanoes, and smoke from his furnaces curled into the sky. He crafted the thrones of the gods, the shield of Athena, and weapons that would shape wars and myths to come. In imperfection, he found power, and in fire he forged the will of Olympus. In the stillness of Olympus, Zeus clutched his head in agony. A fierce pain throbbed in his skull, growing with the weight of thought and thunder. The gods watched, unsure, None could ease the torment. Then came Hephaestus, summoned to perform a divine task. With a steady hand he split Zeus's head open, not with cruelty, but with sacred precision. From within, fully armored and radiant, leapt Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, and strategy. She did not cry. She did not stumble. She stood tall, spear in hand, eyes sharp with clarity. Born not from womb but mind, she was reason incarnate, calm yet fierce, measured yet mighty. Athena became patron of civilization, guiding mortals in architecture, justice, and the art of war with purpose. Cities would rise in her name, chief among them Athens, where her olive tree symbolized peace and strength. Unlike Ares, a god of chaotic battle, Athena embodied the warrior's discipline, not bloodlust, but strategy. She was beloved not just for power, but for principle. The gods welcomed her. Even Zeus looked upon her with pride, the daughter born from his mind, not fear. Athena marked a new phase where war met wisdom, and power bowed to intellect. From the union of Zeus and the Titaness Leto, twin deities entered the world: Artemis, goddess of the moon and the hunt, and Apollo, god of the sun, music, and prophecy. Their birth was not peaceful. Hera, jealous of Leto, forbade her from giving birth on any land touched by sunlight. Wandering in desperation, Leto found sanctuary on the floating island of Delos, untouched by Gaia's firm ground. There, under stars and salt winds, she delivered Artemis first, silent and serene. Then, after 9 days of labor, Apollo emerged, glowing with divine light. The twins grew swiftly, embodying duality. Artemis, clad in silver, roamed forests with her bow, protector of wild beasts and young maidens. Apollo, with his golden lyre, brought poetry, healing, and the gift of foresight. They were opposites, yet unbreakably bonded. Apollo established his oracle at Delphi, where mortals would seek truth. Artemis, meanwhile, vowed eternal virginity and roamed untamed lands. The balance between them represented harmony, light and shadow, sun and moon, civilization and wilderness. In the twins, Olympus found a mirror, beauty and danger, freedom and fate, forever dancing across sky and earth. Where Athena stood for wisdom in battle, her brother Ares embodied its chaos. Born of Zeus and Hera, Ares was the god of raw warfare, unfiltered, brutal, and relentless. He craved the clash of blades, the roar of armies, the crimson rush of blood, spilled in glory. From his youth, Ares wandered battlefields, laughing in the storm of spears. He was handsome, towering, and terrifying. But while mortals feared him, many gods scorned him. Even Zeus, his father, called him the most hateful of his children. For Ares fought not for justice, but for dominance. Yet Ares was not only destruction. He symbolized courage in its most primal form, the fire that drove warriors to charge into impossible odds, accompanied by Phobos' sphere and Deimos' terror, his twin sons by the goddess Aphrodite. Ares spread frenzy in the hearts of men. Though often defeated by Athena's strategy, Ares never ceased to fight. He clashed with Heracles, was trapped in a jar by Alode giants, and found love and betrayal in Aphrodite's arms. He was a god of contradiction, despised yet worshipped, feared yet honored. In Ares, mortals saw the madness they could not escape, and the strength they could not deny. Aphrodite, born from sea foam, was the embodiment of irresistible beauty, but her power extended far beyond appearance. She ruled the hearts of gods and mortals alike. Love, lust, jealousy, betrayal, all pulsed beneath her soft smile. Zeus, fearing the chaos her allure could cause, married her to Hephaestus, the god of fire. Yet love cannot be caged. Aphrodite's heart strayed to Ares, the god of war, a union of passion and conflict. Their secret affair was whispered across, culminating in a divine scandal when Hephaestus ensnared them in an unbreakable net and exposed them to the gods. Still, Aphrodite was not shamed. Her power only grew. She inspired countless mortal tales. Pygmalion, who fell in love with a statue she brought to life, Paris, whose choice led to the Trojan War, and Anchises, with whom she bore Aeneas, a hero destined to shape Rome's foundation. Her domain was not limited to romance. It was the essence of attraction, the invisible pull that moved hearts and toppled empires. 40. She adorned the world with longing, and through her, even gods learned humility. On the dawn of his birth, Hermes slipped from his cradle, stole Apollo's sacred cattle, and returned before his mother even stirred. He was laughter in motion, a trickster, a thief, a genius. Born of Zeus and the nymph Maia, Hermes became the swift-footed god of communication, travel, commerce, and cunning. With winged sandals and a wide-brimmed cap, he traversed sky, sea, and underworld. His caduceus, a staff entwined with serpents, symbolized peace and negotiation. Though mischievous, Hermes was invaluable. He carried Zeus's commands across realms, guided souls to the underworld, and rescued heroes from danger. He helped Perseus defeat Medusa and led Odysseus from enchantment. The gods trusted him, mortals honored him, and tricksters adored him. Where other deities demanded temples, Hermes needed only roads, crossroads, and open skies. He was movement made divine, and in every whisper, every clever escape, Hermes' presence lingered while Zeus ruled the sky and Poseidon tamed the sea. Hades descended to the deepest realm, the underworld, a land of shadows and silence. It was not a place of fire, but of passage, where all mortal souls would journey. Hades was solemn, just, and powerful. His kingdom was not hellish torment, but order beyond death. He wore the helmet of invisibility, gifted by the Cyclopes, allowing him to move unseen. Mortals feared him, but he did not revel in cruelty. He was a gatekeeper, not an executioner. With his three-headed hound, Cerberus guarding the gates, and rivers like Styx and Lethe flowing through his realm, Hades maintained balance between life and what comes after. Yet even Hades was touched by love. He fell for Persephone, daughter of Demeter. In time, he brought her to the underworld, an act that would trigger seasons, sorrow, and myth. In Hades' kingdom, souls awaited judgment. The virtuous passed to Elysium, the wicked to Tartarus, and others wandered the asphodel fields. He was not evil. He was necessary, the final chapter in every life, and the quiet ruler of what lies beyond. With the sea as his domain, Poseidon, brother of Zeus and Hades, ruled the depths with a trident of storm-forged power. His mood shaped the waves, calm when pleased, tempestuous when angered. Poseidon's palace, made of coral and sea glass, rested at the bottom of the ocean. Dolphins played at his feet, and sea nymphs sang his name. He was revered by sailors, worshipped by islanders, and feared by those who heard the roar of tsunamis. He could summon earthquakes with a stomp, split the earth with his rage, and stir tidal waves that swallowed empires. Yet Poseidon was also a creator. He shaped horses from sea foam and gifted the first to mortals. His presence bridged earth and sea, beast and god. But Poseidon's pride often brought conflict. He contested Athena for Athens, wooed mortals with godly power, and held grudges that would last for centuries. His storms tested heroes like Odysseus, yet he also fathered noble and monstrous children alike. He was a god of majesty and fury, as beautiful as the calm sea, and as terrifying as the depths. Among Demeter's golden fields walked her daughter, Persephone, maiden of spring, light-footed, curious, and beloved, loved by the land. Flowers bloomed in her wake, and all who saw her smiled, unaware that fate had marked her for a darker path. Hades, silent king of the underworld, had watched from afar. Captivated by her beauty and spirit, he rose from the shadows one day and abducted Persephone, dragging her into his realm beneath the earth. Demeter's joy turned to grief. She searched the world endlessly, and as her sorrow deepened, crops withered, rivers dried, and famine touched the mortal world. Even Olympus trembled at her mourning. Finally, Zeus intervened, commanding that Persephone be returned. But in the underworld, Persephone had eaten 6 pomegranate seeds, binding her forever to Hades for 6 months of the year. Thus was born the seasons. For 6 months, Persephone returns to the surface, and the world blooms with her mother's joy. For the other 6, she reigns beside Hades, and the world descends into cold, silent reflection. No longer just a maiden, Persephone became a queen, of light and shadow, life and death. Her tale reminds all that beauty can endure even in darkness, and that every loss carries the seed of return. Once a stunning mortal priestess of Athena, Medusa served in the goddess's temple, devoted, pious, and radiant with beauty. Her hair shimmered like sunlight on silk, and many admired her, though she remained humble. But when Poseidon, in a fit of lust and pride, violated her in Athena's temple, the sacred space was desecrated. Athena, cold and proud, responded not with justice against Poseidon, but by cursing Medusa. Her once beautiful hair turned to venomous serpents. Her gaze became fatal, turning all who looked upon her into stone. Cast out, she fled to the edge of the world, shunned and feared. Medusa, once a symbol of innocence, became one of fear and rage. Yet her story was not one of villainy, it was of survival. Her power, though terrifying, was a shield against a world that wronged her. One day, fate came in the form of Perseus, sent by King Polydectes to slay her. With Athena's mirrored shield, Hades' helm of invisibility, and Hermes' winged sandals, Perseus approached. Seeing only her reflection, he beheaded Medusa, ending her suffering, and from her blood sprang Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, a golden warrior. Even in death, Medusa gave birth to wonder. Her legacy became not just of terror, but transformation. As gods shaped the world, their unions with mortals brought forth a new breed, heroes, born of divine strength and mortal will. These were not perfect beings, but flawed champions who dared to defy fate. From Zeus and Alcmene came Heracles, whose strength defied reason. From Poseidon and mortal women came Theseus and Bellerophon. Even Ares, Aphrodite, and Hermes left echoes of themselves in heroic bloodlines. The gods watched these half-divine children with curiosity. Some aided them, others tested them. Their feats stitched together mortal and mythic realms. Heracles' 12 labors cleansed ancient sins. Perseus saved Andromeda. Theseus conquered the Minotaur. These heroes brought balance. Where gods could not intervene directly, heroes became hands of fate, sometimes arrogant, often tragic, but always unforgettable. Mortals saw in them their highest aspirations and deepest warnings. Among the Titans, one remained loyal not to Cronus, but to humanity. Prometheus, the fire-bringer. He saw mortals shivering in darkness, fearful and fragile, and in defiance of Zeus, he gifted them fire, the light of knowledge, warmth, and creation. Zeus, enraged, saw this as treason. Fire was divine, not meant for mortal hands. In punishment, he chained Prometheus to a lonely mountain, where each day an eagle tore into his liver, and each night it regrew. Still, Prometheus did not cry out. His suffering was chosen. He had faith in humankind's potential. Later, Zeus would send a final blow, the creation of Pandora, the first woman, beautiful and curious. With her came a jar of sorrows. When opened, it released suffering into the world. Illness, death, madness. Only hope remained, fluttering at the bottom. Thus, mortals were gifted fire and burdened with pain. But in that fire they forged civilization. Prometheus, though chained, became a symbol of sacrifice, and rebellion for a greater good. Though the gods celebrated, Gaia stirred once more. The Earth Mother had watched war, betrayal, and arrogance grow among her children. Even the Olympians, once born of struggle, now ruled with pride. And so Gaia whispered prophecy. A new force would one day rise, a child mightier than Zeus. Alarmed, Zeus took no chances. When he wed Metis, the goddess of wisdom, he learned she carried a powerful child. Fearing the prophecy, Zeus swallowed Metis whole, absorbing her knowledge and delaying fate. But Gaia knew time could not be cheated. The earth itself held ancient truths. Deep within her, she awakened a force older than the gods. The giants, born of Uranus's blood, rising now to challenge Olympus. In the Gigantomachy, the earth quaked, mountains roared. The giants, monstrous and divine, prepared for war. Gaia's message was clear. No power remains unchallenged. Balance must always return. The ground split, the seas roared, and from the bones of Uranus and the womb of Gaia rose the giants, towering beings of immense strength and fury. They were not mindless monsters, but avatars of nature's vengeance, called forth by Gaia to restore balance. The Olympians, now gods of order, saw them as a threat, but the giants fought not for chaos. They fought for the earth, for the discarded, for justice. Yet their strength alone could not overthrow Olympus. Zeus, determined to stop them, called upon all the gods. Battle erupted across the heavens and the earth. Athena led the charge, casting her spear into Enceladus, while Apollo's arrows rained from the sun. Artemis, Hera, and Ares all joined the fray, but Gaia had ensured the giants could not fall by godly hand alone. Only a mortal, with divine aid, could tip the scales. And so the gods turned to a hero, a demigod who would become their greatest champion, Heracles. The Gigantomachy raged for days, shaking the very pillars of the cosmos. At last, with Heracles' arrow and Zeus's thunderbolt, the giants were defeated. Gaia wept, but balance, however brutal, had returned. Though the giants fell, Gaia's sorrow turned to fury. As her last act of defiance against Olympus, she birthed Typhon, the most terrifying being the world had ever known. Typhon, a storm-born monster, towered above mountains. From his shoulders sprouted serpentine heads, each breathing fire and venom. His wings blotted out the sky, his roar cracked the stars. Even the gods trembled. Zeus alone stood firm. As Typhon surged toward Olympus, the other gods fled to Egypt, disguising themselves as animals. But Zeus, armed with thunder, faced the beast in a cataclysmic clash. Their battle tore the heavens. Lightning met flame, mountain crumbled into sea. Typhon struck Zeus, ripping sinews from his body, and imprisoned him in a cave. But with the help of Hermes and Pan, Zeus escaped, recovered his strength, and unleashed his full might. With a final thunderbolt, Zeus crushed Typhon beneath Mount Etna, sealing him forever. Even now, his fury rumbles beneath the earth. The defeat of Typhon marked the end of the cosmic rebellions. Olympus stood unchallenged. The age of gods had solidified. With all threats vanquished, the Olympians reigned supreme. Zeus stood as king of the gods, Poseidon ruled the seas, Hades the underworld. Olympus, once a symbol of rebellion, now gleamed as the heart of divine order. Temples rose across the mortal world. Sacrifices were made, hymns sung, oracles consulted. The gods walked the world freely, inspiring, punishing, guiding. Yet this age was not one of perfect peace. The gods were flawed, their wills often clashing. Jealousies flared, oaths were broken, mortals were punished for pride. But still, the divine structure held. Athena brought law, Apollo brought prophecy, Artemis protected the wild. Hestia kept the sacred hearth burning, and Hermes linked gods and men. This was the classical pantheon, not born of serenity, but shaped by struggle. Their myths filled the skies, etched into constellations, carved into temples. Though Gaia rested, her presence was still felt. In every seed, mountain, and storm, her breath remained. The world was alive with myth, and mortals, once forgotten, now played a part in the story of the gods. Though gods ruled from Olympus, they turned their gaze to mortals, to those who bore fragments of divine blood or the strength of will to challenge fate. Thus began the Age of Heroes, a time when mortals stood alongside gods in legend. They sailed seas, fought monsters, defied kings, and loved goddesses. Heracles, performing labors to purge his sins, stood as the greatest among them. Perseus, Theseus, Jason, Atalanta, and Achilles each left marks upon myth and memory. The gods meddled often, granting boons, inciting wars, seducing, or punishing. Yet they also watched as mortals rose beyond their expectations. These stories filled the world with epic cycles of love, war, betrayal, and redemption. The gods remained eternal, but heroes became bridges between divine and human, flawed, glorious, and unforgettable. And as their legends spread, even stars remembered their names. As time moved forward, the battles ceased, but the stories did not. Mortals, now shaping cities and civilizations, looked to the heavens and whispered the names of gods on heroes. From Homer's verses to temple friezes, from Delphi's riddles to Athens's altars, the myths endured. They were not just tales of the past. They were reflections of the human soul, proud, fearful, brave, curious. Khaos and Gaia, once forgotten, still whispered in winds and earthquakes. Every storm recalled Zeus, every sea crash sang of Poseidon, every dark night echoed with Hades' silence. The flame of Prometheus, the wisdom of Athena, the love of Aphrodite, all lived on in the hearts of storytellers. The myths taught not just origins, but lessons of power and humility, of creation and consequence, of love and war. They reminded mortals that the cosmos was once born not from peace, but from struggle and purpose. And even now, as stars wheel above in silence, the gods still watch, not from golden thrones, but from within every tale told, every truth sought, every spark of wonder in the human mind. The universe lives because the story never ends. Before gods and titans, before even Gaia and Uranus shaped the world, there was Nyx, the primordial goddess of night. Born directly from chaos, she was one of the oldest beings in the universe, mysterious, elegant, and terrifying. Nyx did not dwell on Olympus, nor in the mortal world. She lived beyond the veil, in a shadowy realm at the edge of existence, where even light dared not pass. From her womb came powerful forces: Hypnos, sleep; Thanatos, death; Eris's strife; and Nemesis, retribution. Zeus himself feared her. When angered, her mere presence could still his thunder. Though she did not interfere often, when she did, her will was absolute, calm, commanding, and undeniable. She wrapped the world in darkness each night, not as a punishment, but as a reminder: all life needs rest, and all power has its limits. In her shadow, dreams were born. In her embrace, stars blinked to life. Nyx was not evil, she was balance. Just as Hemera Ajde, her daughter, brought light, Nyx brought introspection, silence, and the sacred veil under which life renews itself. Even gods must sleep. And when they do, Nyx watches. From the shadows of Nyx came Nemesis, goddess of divine retribution. She was not cruel, but coldly just. Her task was sacred, to balance excess with consequence, to humble the arrogant, punish hubris, and restore cosmic equilibrium. Where mortals or gods overstepped, Nemesis followed. She held a mirror to their pride and returned what was deserved. No more, no less. Not even the divine escaped her reach. When Narcissus scorned love, she made him fall for his own reflection. When kings declared themselves above fate, she reminded them of mortality, clad in black robes with a wheel of fate at her side. Nemesis carried a sword and scales. She walked in silence, letting her actions speak. Justice was not loud. It was inevitable. Mortals prayed to her, not to be spared, but to be seen, to ensure fairness in a world ruled by gods and fate. Her name echoed through time. Not a destroyer, but a restorer. Though the world moved forward, one figure remained bound in endless agony: Prometheus, the Titan who had stolen fire from the gods to give to humanity. High on the Caucasus Mountains, chained by unbreakable bonds, Prometheus suffered daily torment. Each morning, a giant eagle, a creature of Zeus, descended to devour his liver. Each night, his body healed, and the torment resumed. His punishment was not just physical. It was symbolic, a warning to all who challenged Olympus. Yet Prometheus never begged, never repented. He had given mortals the spark of progress, and he would endure the cost. Time passed. Empires rose and fell. Heroes were born and died, and still Prometheus endured, but eventually prophecy stirred. A son of Zeus, born of a mortal woman, would break the chains. That hero was Heracles. With Zeus's reluctant permission, Heracles climbed the mountain, slew the eagle with a single arrow, and broke the Titan's bonds. Prometheus, finally freed, stood once more, weathered but unbroken. The gods had learned. So had mortals. And Prometheus, father of invention and resistance, walked again among the stars. Nestled between the cliffs of Mount Parnassus sat Delphi, the sacred sanctuary of Apollo, god of light, music, and prophecy. Here, mortals and kings alike journeyed to hear the voice of the gods. At its heart sat the Pythia, Apollo's priestess, seated on a tripod above a chasm from which sacred vapors rose. Entranced, she spoke in riddles, words said to come directly from Apollo himself. The oracle of Delphi shaped destinies. Oedipus, Croesus, Alexander, all heard her cryptic verses. Her prophecies were warnings, not commands. The wise heeded them. The arrogant twisted them to ruin. Apollo loved Delphi deeply. The arrogant, he had slain Python, a primordial serpent, to claim the land. The sight became a symbol of divine insight, not blind fate, but the power to choose wisely. Delphi was the center of the world, marked by the Omphalos stone, said to rest where Zeus's eagles met mid-flight. Pilgrims arrived with offerings, questions, and desperate hopes. The oracle reminded all, gods may rule, but it is mortals who must live with their choices. In the aftermath of the Titanomachy, not all Titans were cast into Tartarus. Atlas, brother of Prometheus and commander of the Titan armies, received a unique punishment from Zeus to hold up the sky. He was not imprisoned. He was burdened, sent to the edge of the world. Atlas stood upon the western horizon, arms raised, forever separating earth from the heavens. His muscles trembled. Mountains formed at his feet. Storms brewed around him. But Atlas endured. His defiance had been punished not with chains, but with cosmic duty. He was not forgotten. Heracles, during his 12 labors, sought Atlas's aid to retrieve golden apples from the garden of the Hesperides, Atlas's daughters. For a moment, Atlas handed the heavens to Heracles, hoping to escape. But Heracles, clever and strong, tricked him into taking the sky back. Atlas was resigned to his fate and yet revered. His image adorned maps, statues, and legends. Atlas, he became a symbol, not just of punishment, but of endurance and cosmic strength. The heavens rested on his shoulders, and in that eternal strain, the stars learned patience. Even the gods had limits. At the edge of destiny stood the Moirai, the Fates, 3 primordial sisters who wove the thread of every life, mortal and divine. Clotho, the spinner, drew the thread of life from the cosmic loom. Lachesis, the measurer, determined its length. Atropos, the cutter, severed it with finality. They were older than Zeus, older even than some titans. They did not obey Olympus. They existed beyond will, neutral, inevitable, eternal. Mortals feared them, and even the gods offered them respect. Though Zeus ruled the sky, he could not alter the pattern they spun. They stood silent at births, unseen at deaths, and unmoved by pleading. Heroes rose and fell, kings claimed divinity, yet none escaped the scissors of Atropos. They were not cruel. They were balance, guardians of the story's length. And when the time came for myths to fade into memory, it was they who closed the final chapter. After eons of gods, titans, and heroes, the universe still pulsed with the original breath of chaos. It had not vanished, only receded, waiting beyond the stars, watching. Chaos was not evil. It was potential, unshaped energy, the infinite before form. From it had sprung Gaia, Nyx, Tartarus, and the stars themselves. And someday it might return, not in destruction, but in rebirth. When humans stared into the void, into the sea, the night sky, or their own dreams, they touched chaos. It whispered to artists, philosophers, prophets. It reminded the world that creation comes from emptiness and meaning from mystery. Even the fates could not weave without chaos's threads. Even Zeus, at the peak of Olympus, came from its silence. And when all stories are told, chaos will remain, patient, formless, and full of beginnings. Gods fade, temples crumble, heroes die, but stories live. From ancient firesides to golden temples, from scrolls to screens, the myths of Khaos and Gaia have echoed across generations. Each telling breathes new life into old names. Homer sang of gods and men. Oracles whispered riddles. Artists painted the skies with their forms. Every storyteller became a vessel, carrying not just words, but wonder. In every culture, under every sky, these tales took new shapes. The core remained. The universe was born from darkness, shaped by struggle, and carried forward by will. To speak of Gaia is to speak of life. To summon chaos is to confront mystery. And to remember Zeus, Athena, Hades, Aphrodite, is to remember the endless reflection of our human spirit, flawed, powerful, curious, and divine. We may not pray at their altars, but we still dream their dreams. They live wherever stories are told, eternally reborn with each breath of imagination, with the cosmos shaped and the gods enthroned. Gaia, the eternal Earth Mother, retreated into the stillness of the land she had become. Her body was the soil, the mountains, the forests, and the seas. She no longer walked or spoke. She breathed, through winds, rivers, and roots. Her hands were every leaf that turned toward the sun. Her tears became rainfall. Her laughter echoed in birdsong. Mortals lived on her skin, fed from her fruits, and built upon her bones. Though forgotten by name, she was never gone, for all came from her. Even gods, she did not demand temples. She needed no hymns. Every seed planted in hope, every act of kindness, every reverence for nature, these were her prayers. And in times of great imbalance, she stirred again. Not with fury, but with warning. Earthquakes, storms, the cracking of stone, her voice when unheard too long. Gaia, the first goddess, had given birth to gods, monsters, and mortals. Now she rested, not in absence, but in wholeness. The universe, vibrant and ever-shifting, was her legacy. As the story nears its close, we look up, as mortals always have, to the stars. Every god now lives in constellation: Orion the hunter, Cassiopeia the queen, Pegasus the winged steed. Heroes sparkle in the night sky, their myths etched in starlight. The universe began in darkness, with chaos, with breath, with dream. From it came form, and from form, memory. The Greeks believed the heavens were the final resting place of stories. Stars were not just fireballs, they were fragments of myth immortalized above us, watching, whispering, guiding. And now, in our own age, we still tell these stories. On stages, in books, in films, and yes, even in this very video. You, dear listener, are part of the myth now. You carry it forward, with every retelling, every curiosity, every moment you wonder what lies beyond. So as you walk beneath the night sky, remember this, Prendel: the universe was not born in silence. It was born in story, and it is never finished